There comes a point in every content creator's career, which is kind of an anti-career, because you're not making any money doing this. You're just doing it to create content. You're a slave to the content. I'm a slave to the music, man. Where's that from? That's from a movie. I'm a slave to the music. I don't know. I'm a slave to the content. I was creating content for a long time. The content I was creating was music, primarily. But, as I was saying, I seem to like interrupt myself pretty consistently. There comes a time in every content creator's career, or lack of career, where there'll be this point where you're like, whoa, look at like the videos that I've been doing. They've been very like idiosyncratic, and they're talking about things that the majority of people can't relate to. And then if you couple that with the thing that I presented as my biggest irritation with my own channel, is the fact that I'll meander about something, and then I'll like I'll go around the point. I don't know exactly I was going to say circumnavigate. I don't know if that's the right word. I'll go around the point without expressly stating it in a solid way. And then I'll do a video later saying like, oh, like the whole thing I was talking about. Let me just sum it up really quick in like 30 seconds, and I do it. That's got to be really frustrating. It's frustrating for me, just because I have to rewatch the videos to make the clips. Anyways, so the content creator's lack of career reaches this existential crisis when you look at like the videos and you're like, whoa, and it's just like Homer when he was on the internet, Mr. X, and it's like his views are going down and down. It's like negative numbers, and you're like, I have to do something that's very accessible to people. But then doing something that's accessible to people, I don't want to do it in a generic way. I'll say something about doing something in a generic way. And I as I've made a point, I haven't really I've been a little bit sort of indifferent to the AI menace, or the threat of AI. What was that? The Phantom Menace? The AI menace? Right? That's we're living in the prequel that is the AI menace, right? And though I've been pretty like kind of indifferent about it, because I never really made any money. I haven't made any money artistically, so I don't have like my balloon isn't really getting popped. My balloon never got inflated to begin with, so I'm not really. But I look at other YouTubers, Brick Beato. I don't think Andy Edwards really comments on it too much, but the other people are very concerned about AI. But going to what I was saying about these generic kind of videos is, I found this channel that was about Twin Peaks. It was called like Twin Sync or something. It was really interesting. He was a guy, and he's doing very thoughtful videos, edits and stuff, bringing out these kind of nuanced aspects of Twin Peaks and Twin Peaks lore. I did a video on David Lynch. And then because I watched some of this guy's videos, some video popped up in the algorithm. I started watching it. And I wasn't really thinking about it. I'm like, wait a minute, what's this little thing? And it says, oh, it's made with AI. And, oh, okay. So, and all it's like 20 dark facts about Twin Peaks or whatever. And you're like, this is just really, and I think it was the moment. It was like I only got about 5 or 6 minutes in the video, but it's like something that even the most hardcore fan doesn't know about Twin Peaks. And it was just, I can't remember what it was. Oh, the backwards talking thing. Interestingly enough, I'll tell you a little story. This is good. The Twin Peaks thing fits into today's video. I was like 18 or 19, and I was like driving, I think, my folks' car or something. I was out at like leaving. I was like around SMC, and I made a left turn, and this British guy, he was running the light. It was like a yellow light, and he hit me, and he was going pretty fast. It spun me around, right? Anyway, so it was like, wasn't hurt, but I ended up having to go to the hospital just for like whatever sake. And I was ultimately at fault because I'm making a left turn. But strangely enough, after we got out of the hospital, my mom and we stopped at Denny's in Santa Monica, and the man from the other room, the the short gentleman, he was there at Denny's with I think the kid was like his son. And I had just like got out of the hospital, and it's just bewildering day, and I see this guy, and I recognize him, and he could tell that him, and he's in the booth right by us, and he just starts talking backwards to me because he practiced it. And then I talked to him a bit about Twin Peaks. He was super cool. And his son was like irritated that like his dad was getting recognized or whatever. But it was a pretty interesting little run in with that gentleman from Twin Peaks. And we talked about David Lynch, and we talked about stuff because I was really, I'll probably always be kind of into David Lynch to one extent or another. Anyways, so this video I was watching, it was the thing that said like, no Twin Peaks fans know about this, and it's about the backwards talking thing or whatever. And I was like, I remember the story or the experience I had, and then I was like, this is, and it was like just some AI video. It's so people just like sit. I don't even. It's probably someone in India is like, hey, make an AI video about Twin Peaks, and then like 200,000 people watch it, 180, 200 people comment on it. I love Twin Peaks, and they all like talk about it. My videos are like the opposite of AI. Like it's the opposite of that experience. It could not be more generic. This is the least generic thing. Just as like the YouTube, the content creator, it's the lack of a profession. This is the lack of generality, or the lack of being generic. It's idiosyncratic to the max, and that's why I keep failing. But the joke's on you, because I never expected to succeed. I was all about the integrity. I'm always about the integrity. Never doubt my commitment to the integrity. So I've alienated everyone. No one wants to watch the video. It's going to be too long. So, you know who was a part of the David Lynch universe? And his character, Philip Jeffries, played a really pivotal role, especially kind of at the end, is this guy. Now, the thing is this is one of the big ones, okay? As I said before with the Lou Reed and like the Stones or whatever, if you want to look at my collection, it's ragged, because the collection is not so much here as it is like here. It's just in my blood. These are the things that I have in my room, because these are the things that like I'm just gonna like listen to. I'll listen to stuff on Spotify or whatever. But this is the name of this video is going to be The Uncommon David Bowie. And I'm not going to really do justice to that, because there's uncommon stuff. But it's like, he's not somebody that it's like I said before in other videos, it's like there's certain people that you'll read about, you'll collect stuff about them, whatever, but you have such an intimate relationship with what they're doing artistically that you don't feel a need to keep it in this pristine sort of way. Strangely enough, when I do my Swans video, you'll see that actually my Swans collection is actually pretty, it's pretty like, indexed. I do like Swans a lot, but it's not here. It's not at this level where it's just like part of my psyche. It's the part of the psychic furniture. So The Uncommon David Bowie, this is I'm not gonna do the Scott Walker thing. I'm not gonna do the 3-volume thing. I thought I was gonna have to do 3 volumes because I was like, it's David Bowie, dude. He's so essential. But it'll be a little bit chronological, but it's just gonna be some random idiosyncratic things. This is the 3 CD set of the Bowie at the Beeb. A lot of people, I think, would be, when they get this, it's CD2, because that's him really hunky-dory through through Ziggy Stardust. Hunky Dory, I actually prefer to Ziggy Stardust as an album, and I also I'm going to say something about the first CD on here in a second, but I really think The Man Who Sold the World and Hunky Dory are like just two really tremendous albums, both of which I would kind of take over Ziggy Stardust. Not to say I dislike Ziggy Stardust, but Man Who Sold the World, Tony Visconti was playing on that. He didn't just produce it or record it. He was also, I think, playing bass on it, I want to say. Man Who Sold the World is Bowie's attempt at doing kind of a hard rock sort of album. Black country rock and things like that. It's got these traces of Zeppelin and Sabbath and things like that. He was feeling that out a bit. Hunky Dory, he's got these aspects of the Kinks and the Beatles and the Pretty Things and his own, because he can I would actually take, when you talk about those sorts of jaunty sort of British songs that those guys will occasionally do, a lot of people really think of the Kinks in relation to that. The Stones did it on Between the Buttons. That was the album where they kind of got their inner Kinks thing worked out. I think that Bowie actually could do those jaunty sort of like Kooks and stuff. I think he kind of did it better in a way that I prefer better than Ray Davies did. I kind of think Ray Davies is better when he's writing songs like Lola. What's really interesting on this, now this is actually the desirable one because it's got the live album that he did in 2000 at the BBC Radio Theatre. And that is really good. Because most of the time if you get this, you're only going to get the first two CDs. This actually has the third CD, which makes it a little bit rare. It was a little more valuable before. I don't know if it is anymore. The first CD I really like because he's doing these songs In the Heat of the Morning, London by Tata, Karma Man, Silly Boy Blue, Let Me Sleep Beside You, Janine, Amsterdam. The first 7 songs, he's doing his Scott Walker, Jacques Brel thing, and it's being captured in a way that's better than that one. There's that one collection that has the early stuff before the self-titled album. It's better than that. These versions, they really capture that sort of Jacques Brel, Scott Walker kind of AOR sort of vibe of the mid 60s, mid to late 60s really well. So the first disc, it's appealing in a way that it's very different than most other Bowie listening experiences, because just the way that these songs are sort of captured, you could tell he'd really been listening to Scott Walker a lot, and he'd really been listening to the Jacques Brel and stuff, and he's just doing his own interpretations, or he's just capturing it in a really intimate but well orchestrated setting. It's very good. It gets into stuff from his self-titled album, and then it gets into that first disc does get into like Man Who Sold the World, Hunky Dory territory. But by the second disc, you really are, because you see Queen Bitch, which Green River covered. I got into David Bowie because Green River covered Queen Bitch, and I thought it was such a great song. And then it gets into Ziggy Stardust proper. This album came right after Ziggy Stardust. People don't talk about it a lot. I would also take this over Ziggy Stardust. I love Mike Garson's piano playing on this. It's just, I love that. It's very, like, it's jazzy, and he's going out a lot, but Mike Garson's playing is so precise that he can go out in such a fluid way and then kind of come back in harmonically, melodically to what's going on to the song and the song structure, that it's just astounding. And the songs on here, I think that Watch That Man is a killer opener. It's so Stonesy, but it's just his delivery. it's just impeccable. Jane Genie, a lot of people like. On that, on this, the same thing. Uh, on the same thing about Watch That Man is Cracked Actor is a really great song. Um, I think if me and Sean ever get the Stills back together, we should cover Cracked Actor for sure. I hope Sean watches this video and then comments and says, "Hey, Steve, let's get the Stills back together and let's cover Cracked Actor by David Bowie." I think that's a good idea, Steve. That's what Sean's gonna comment in my channel. Uh, uh, Lady Grinning Soul. Time. All the gravity and the weight and the lyrical depth and everything of a lot of the songs on Ziggy Stardust, whether it is 5 Years or Rock and Roll Suicide, I think Time conveys better lyrically. Musically, it's doing that Kurt Weill, Bertolt Brecht kind of thing a little bit. But lyrically, Time is really great. Time in Red Wine, in Red Wine, demanding Billy dolls and other friends of mine. Take your time. See, I didn't quote it exactly right, but Aladdin Sane. It's an overlooked one. Diamond Dogs is overlooked. Diamond Dogs is I don't have that. That's in the garage. I have the deluxe one, and that was a thing too. There's a whole little thing that someone had told me. I'm not a huge Samuel Delany fan, but someone had told me that that Bowie had read like an advanced copy of Dahlgren or something, and then he incorporated aspects of Dahlgren into Diamond Dogs, because Diamond Dogs is really based on Orwell's 1984. He couldn't do it, so he had to tap in and come up with other things. And some of the things that he did musically or lyrically in the apocalyptic world of Diamond Dogs was it coincides with things that you read in Dahlgren. Dahlgren is probably the best Samuel Delany book. Actually, I haven't read a lot of Delany, so I can't really speak to that. But I think that's his most famous one. But they came out the same year. I don't think Bowie read Dahlgren. He might have talked to Delany or something. But I think really that anything that coincides with Diamond Dogs and Samuel Delany's Dahlgren, I think that that's just the zeitgeist of like 1973, 1974. Diamond Dogs is great. This is the tour. Everyone talks about how he was on the Diamond Dogs tour, and then he was in Philadelphia and he came across like a lot of the people that were playing with Hall & Oates at the time, and he was really enchanted with that, and he switched over to the Philly soul thing mid-tour, and that financially that helped out a lot. Maybe he ended up having to get more backing singers and stuff, but as far as the props and things like that for Diamond Dogs, I think it was really expensive or whatever. And also Young Americans was the thing that was going to get him more traction commercially than Diamond Dogs. You figure Diamond Dogs had Rebel, which is good. That's the nascent glam rock thing that was kind of going on at the time. But I think Young Americans and Fame probably get you a bigger market share than whatever was going on with Diamond Dogs. And a lot of times I don't think, especially when we got into the 70s, after you get past Sgt. Pepper, I think that the majority of people that are mainstream music fans, I don't think they're in the market for concept albums. I think that's more niche, or it's more for fans or whatever. I think more conventional radio listeners want hits. And the Philly soul thing was the medium by which David Bowie was creating the hits that he did. And there's a few albums. The David Live is from that too, and it's not that bad. I think this was a record store day exclusive, and this captures a lot of stuff off Young Americans right when it was being right when he was putting it down. And that is, Young Americans is one of my favorite Bowie albums. And so you're getting some of the older, you're getting some of the Ziggy Stardust stuff, you're getting the Diamond Dog stuff that was, sort of there. And then he had a thing too that I talked about with Nick on the mixtape hotline, where there was this there around the time Ron Wood was recording his album, I've Got My Own Album to Do. They were, a lot of those guys were hanging out at, it was the Bahamas or whatever, and there was a lot of songwriting going on, and that's why you have so many people on Ron Wood's I've Got My Own Album to Do not credited, because it was just Mick, Keith, Ron Wood, Bowie, George Harrison. All these guys were just vacationing there in like 73. And that's why on here you have Bowie going from, he's doing well, he does John, I'm Only Dancing. I don't know. Like, oh no, he does Diamond Dog. He does a medley, and he does Diamond Dogs, and it's only rock and roll in here because it's contemporaneous when those things were being written. So that's really good if you could track that down. This Bowie, what is this called? Bowie 74 is what this is called. So I recommend this for live Bowie. He was actually, and I got to see him with 9 Inch Nails. That's the only time I got to see him. The Outside tour. Outside's a really good album. I didn't grab that because I didn't think that was underrated. I think that this is great. Anytime you watch anybody on YouTube doing a ranking of Bowie albums, they always trash this one. I think it's great. I think that the songs that weren't hits or whatever, I think win. Fascination, right? And definitely Somebody Up There Likes Me. I think those 4 songs are just phenomenal. I love Somebody Up There Likes Me, dude. So, Young Americans, it's an overlooked one. And then so what do I have? He's basically going on tour. Station to Station is a good one. There's a lot of lore with that. Probably some of his like worst behavior as a rock star was happening around the Station to Station time when he's living in LA. But this is the tour for the Station to Station, and this is Live Nassau Coliseum 76. So that you have, I got this at Record Surplus. Dude, who was playing guitar on this? Dude, you know what they did? It was either Carlos Alomar or Earl Slick. I read it in Mojo magazine. Carlos Alomar's on here. I think it was Carlos Alomar. They just told him, like, when he was about to join the band, they're like, hey, look, it was at this time. They're like, hey, if you make a mistake on stage, you're, like, fired. Like, whatever. You miss a chord or something. You make a mistake, you're fired. It's, like, so insane. That's what they told him. I don't know in practicality if it really played out that way. Probably my favorite. Heroes. I just love it all the way through. Beauty and the Beast is great. The title track, Sons of Silence, and then I one of my favorite all-time songs is Blackout. That's an astounding song. You hear that and you're just like, how did he come up with that? The construction of that. That's so phenomenal. What an amazing thing. And a lot of people, they'll say, oh, it's all good, but they don't like The Secret Life of Arabia. Nah, Secret Life of Arabia, that's a really stone cold disco classic. Love it. This is a bootleg. This is a straight up, is there a bump in that? This is a straight up bootleg from the same time. London, UK, Earl's Court. 78? Warsaw, Heroes, What in the World, Be My Wife, Jean Genie, Blackout, Sense of Doubt. Drifting Into My Solitude. That whole trilogy of albums, you got, well, it starts with Low, then Heroes, and Lodger. It's great. I like listening to it around like winter time. As I said before, Outside is a good album. When I saw him, I wasn't that appreciative. I was pretty young. I wasn't that appreciative of the album, and seeing him actually playing live and making a point of performing most of those songs, that brought the album to life for me, and it made me really like, whoa, this is actually really great. And it became it's hard to say what your favorite Bowie albums are, but it's an album that you'll occasionally get the hankering to listen to, like "We Will Prick You" or "I'm Deranged" or things like that. It's just like it's there's a lot of really good songs. "The Heart's Filthy Lesson." There's a lot of really good songs on Outside. This little story that he constructed is kind of goofy. Mike Garrison's back on that one too. I believe Tony Visconti. I believe Brian Eno, but I don't have it with me. This is an album. I was working at the record store at the time. I didn't really pay attention to it. There was like this thrust for it. People were like, "Get it," and he did a VH1 Storytellers, and people and there was this thrust. You know what also was getting a big push at that same time was Mule Variations by Tom Waits. Tom Waits, because he hadn't had anything since maybe with the Bone Machine. So those were getting pushed, and this one was a thing that it sort of like fell by the wayside kind of quickly. People were like, you look at it, this is really his like VH1 album. But you know what, man? Of the later albums, this one holds together really well. A lot of people, I think the three albums that people badmouth the most are really, well, I'm not going to get into Tonight. Tonight's just a bad album. I'm sorry. And maybe Never Let Me Down. But like when people talk about like these albums that are kind of like on the edge, they'll talk about Diamond Dogs, Young Americans, and this one. They'll be like, really not his finest moments. All three of those I really like, and I think this one has like a really consistent good vibe. I like it more than like Heathen and things like that. And then I grabbed this, although this should have like this should get more attention than I'm able to give it in this already too long video. But Black Star, he basically was just giving you his final album, and he got about as avant-garde as Scott Walker did, I'd say. And and he basically curated his demise. He was like, look, this album comes out on my 69th birthday, and then he dies like I don't know how many days later. It seems like it was fully in his control, whereas with like Lou Reed, he just got caught. Like, oh man, the last thing he did was that Hudson River Meditations, which I haven't heard, but the Lulu. There's people that are like, oh man, that was it. That was the last one. Bowie was like, this is going to be the last one, and he does it. And just by like the sheer artistic virtuosity, you don't have to love it or whatever. It can be kind of a challenging listen in a lot of ways, because like I said, it's kind of avant-garde, but it sort of shows you that he kind of grew into, he was a genius, dude. Like Elliott Smith was a genius, like a lot of people in their own, in different ways or whatever, are geniuses. He was a genius, and this sort of shows you that he didn't just start with it. His genius was a process that concludes with this album. All right. Okay, so that's it. I gave my tribute to the late, great David Bowie, who you can't really listen to enough, and that's just some of it. I celebrate his entire catalog, dude. So go listen to some David Bowie. I'll talk to you later.